am honored to introduce Miss Taylor Jefferson. Miss Taylor Jefferson has written 2 unique and lovely books that weave United States presidential history with the noble horse. Clearly inspired by her love for animals, passion for horses, and extensive knowledge of our country's history and presidents, Miss Taylor Jefferson weaves these subjects into her 2 titles. Horses of the Presidents is a fascinating collection of presidential history that explains how the horse helped shape America into the country she is today. Miss Taylor Jefferson clearly understands that children learn best when learning is fun. So she wrote her historical fiction novel, The Adventures of Oreo and Algonquin, and it offers a unique approach to teaching readers about American history and the lifestyles, personalities, and challenges of past presidents like Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and John F. Kennedy through the eyes of Oreo, an adorable miniature horse that Miss Taylor Jefferson brought with her today. So please join me in welcoming Miss Leah Taylor Jefferson.
I'm shorter than you are. Hello, everybody. Well, I think you're going to have a fun time with this story. What I'm going to do is I'll just tell you a little bit of an introduction about the horses of the presidents and then tell you how the adventures of Oreo and Algonquin actually happened. First of all, did you get a list of questions? Everybody get their questions? After we do the reading from the chapter, if you can answer the questions correctly, I have a package of Oreos for you. So I figured since her name's Oreo, that was a good prize, don't you think? And I don't think anybody dislikes Oreos. If they do, I'm sorry. But the horses of the presidents, how it started is actually, I would like to go back to where my mother was a really big part of my life. And she helped me to learn about Washington, D.C. When I was a kid, I was a native Washingtonian. We'd go through the city of Washington, and my mother would always say, "What building is that?" And it would be the Department of Agriculture or Department of Treasury. I'm like, who cares? I'll never need that. Well, I became a tour guide. Tour guides have to point out. So it just tells you your mother knows best. So even though sometimes she might tell you things that seem useless, in the future, you'll probably be using them. Now, if it wasn't for her love of Washington and getting me to really become a tour guide, it was partially because of her that I became a tour guide. I don't think the horses of the presidents or adventures of Oreo and Algonquin would have happened. Because as I traveled through Washington telling people about the city, I'd look at these beautiful buildings, the Capitol, the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, all these important things. And most of them, they wouldn't be there without a horse or a mule. The Lincoln Memorial, of course, is a little later, but still they use mules for that memorial as well. For the Capitol building, it was exclusively mules and horses, huge teams of them that pulled the building's parts to put it into place. When you look at the Treasury building in Washington next to the White House, those columns are solid granite. They're 28 feet long, and it took a huge team of horses to pull those to finally get them in the place where they are today. So that's how that happened. And as part of my book, I decided I needed some little sidekick, and that was Oreo. And I bought my little sweet horse, Oreo, who I couldn't live without, whether I ever sell another book or not. And so she would travel around with me. And the more I took her around, the more I saw there were younger children who were really interested in the story of the horses of the presidents. So that's how we came up with the story of the adventures of Oreo and Algonquin. And it's the White House tour. What happens is she falls asleep in front of the White House when I'm talking about my book. And she goes down into the White House tunnel like Alice does in Alice in Wonderland. And her great-grandfather, Algonquin, who was a real miniature horse, and he went into the White House. He was Theodore Roosevelt's children's horse. He takes her on a tour and talks about all how important the horses of the presidents were. So that's what we're going to do now is read a chapter. I'm going to read the first chapter, and then after that we get to meet Oreo and also ask the questions before that to see who's going to win the Oreos, okay? So what we start here is chapter 1. Oreo and Chocolate Chip. Chocolate Chip's the second horse. Were 2 miniature horses who lived in the mountains of West Virginia on a little farm with Leah and Steve, their human mom and dad. It was a beautiful spring day, and Oreo was rolling in the grass back and forth. The sun beamed down, and it felt so warm. Chocolate Chip shook her head. "Oreo, you know what happens when you roll around. You get dirty. You know what that means. You'll have to get a bath." And here, let me show you the picture. See, we've got the picture of Oreo. Everybody see it? Maybe not for a while, and it feels so good. Anyway, you roll around too. Yeah, but I'm not the history horse. Mom doesn't wash me all the time because I don't want to go anywhere. You love it. I can't help it that people love me. Someone has to tell the world about the president's horses. I can't take this anymore, Chocolate Chip snorted in disgust and walked away. I will leave you alone with your ego. You're just jealous, Oreo neighed back. Suddenly, Oreo heard the screen door slam and out on the house, and she jumped up to see Mom, bringing out some food. Oreo and Chocolate Chip ran up to the fence to see who was coming. Steve and Leah, Shadow, a black Labrador, and an old dog named Alice were walking towards them. Leah had a purple bucket in one hand. Do you think they have food in the bucket? Oreo said excitedly. It's our purple bucket. That usually means food, Chocolate Chip said, nudging Oreo. Shadow ran up to them and licked both the little horses on the nose, making them sneeze, and then jumped around to play. Hello, hello, Shadow barked. You don't have to shout, Shadow, the old dog scolded. Good morning, girls. Morning, Alice. These kids are going to make me old before my time, Chocolate Chip shook her head. Oreo pretended to kick at Shadow and jumped around. Shadow jumped out and around barking, You can't get me, you can't get me. Soon Shadow was distracted by a squirrel and ran down to check it out, forgetting all about the two little horses. Hello, girls, Steve and Leah said, patting them on the head. Hi, Mom and Dad, Oreo and Chocolate Chip whinnied. Leah reached into the bucket, pulled out a small plastic bag of sliced apples, and handed them to Steve. Yay, apples, Oreo yelled. Steve and Leah held their hands out flat with pieces of apple so that Chocolate Chip and Oreo could eat them up. Oreo kept nudging Chocolate Chip, trying to get her an apple as well. Eat your own, Chocolate Chip complained. You can see Oreo eating her apples there. Oreo, there are plenty of apples for you, Leah said. After they had eaten all the sliced apples, Leah climbed through the fence and hooked a lead to Oreo, and then led her through the gate and up to the house. I told you, you're going to get a bath. You're going to get a bath, Chocolate Chip neighed, making fun of Oreo. Be quiet, Oreo said angrily, thinking how much she really did hate having a bath. Leah tied Oreo to a post and brushed her took a brush out of the bucket and brushed her all over. Oreo loved this part. It felt so good. Then Steve took out a hoof pick and cleaned her feet, while Leah took a comb and brushed Oreo's mane and tail. Steve turned on the hose while Leah took out a sponge and soap from the bucket. Steve directed the hose into the bucket, filling it with soapy water, and then turned the hose on Oreo, and Leah started to scrub her all over. Oreo tried to move out of her way of the hose, but Leah said, Come on, Miss Oreo, you will look so pretty for the children and smell so good. Oreo decided it was better to just let them go ahead and get at her nice and clean. And you can see Oreo getting a bath here, all the bubbles. When they were done, Leah took a big towel and rubbed Oreo all over, and then brushed her again until she looked beautiful. Her white patches were bright white, and her chocolate patches looked so shiny. I may have taken a bath, but I look gorgeous compared to you, Oreo bragged. Whatever, Chocolate Chip said, shaking her head up and down. At least I won't have to go in that trailer. I like the trailer, Oreo said. I get to see horses from all over when we drive. It's fun. Steve and Leah untied Oreo from the post and led her into the horse trailer. It was a white trailer on the outside, and there was a painting of Oreo wearing a hat like President Lincoln. It said, Oreo, the history horse. And by the way, you can find Oreo on Facebook by Googling Oreo, the history horse. Steve and Leah closed up the back of the trailer and then went into the house to freshen up. They came out a little later, dressed in clean clothes, and got into the truck. The back of the trailer had a window where Oreo could look out. She neighed to Chocolate Chip. I can't wait. I'm off to have some fun. Have a good time, Oreo. I'll be right here eating all your grass. As they drove down the driveway, Chocolate Chip ran along the fence. Bye, bye. The trailer bumped along the road and turned past a field where Oreo's friends, 3 bay mares, lived on a neighboring farm. Oreo neighed out, hello. The 3 mares in the field raised their heads from the grazing and called up, Hey, Oreo, where are you going this time? All the way to Washington, D.C., she neighed back. Say hello to the president. Soon they went on a big road with other cars next to them. Oreo liked to look in and see what people were doing. If people saw her, they always pointed and smiled. Sometimes big trucks would go by and they were scary, but the drivers always smiled and waved at her. Now they were going really slowly, and Oreo could see water. They were on a bridge. There was a little girl in a car seat next to them. The little girl started to squeal in delight when she saw Oreo. She reached out her little hands, waving at them. You can see the little girl waving at her. Yep. The traffic finally started to move. The traffic started to move, and they came to the city. Oreo loved Washington. It was so beautiful, all the pretty memorials, and the grass was so green. She would love to eat all of it. They were going to be right in front of the White House today. All the children were coming to see Oreo, and she was so excited. Steve parked, and then he and Leah got out and undid the back of the trailer. She attached a lead to Oreo and led her into the bright sunshine. There was a big green field, and there it was, the White House. Oreo neighed, "Yippee!" She had a great-grandfather who had once gone into the White House. Her horse mother had told her the story of Algonquin and how a little boy took him up in the White House elevator to see his sick brother. Oreo wondered if she could ever have a chance to go into the White House. Leah led Oreo over to a tree and tied her in the shade until she and Steve had gotten everything set up. They took a folded table out of the back of the truck and set it up under a table, putting a tablecloth printed with all kinds of horses on it. Then Steve took out a big box of books out of the truck and opened it, and Leah took out stacks and put them in place. Then they took out little stuffed horses that looked like Oreo and a little plastic horse, and then next to it the books. Finally, Leah undid Oreo's lead and brought her over by the table. Soon there were children surrounding them, patting and kissing Oreo. They held their little hands out flat and gave Oreo miniature carrots and took turns brushing her. The more they petted her, the sleepier she got. The warmth of the sun felt so good, and Oreo just had to close her eyes. There weren't any children left, so Oreo decided to lie down. Her eyes fluttered up and down as she tried to stay awake. She opened them one more time, and there were two little boys standing on the White House lawn, waving to her and calling her name. Mom had let go of her leash. Plus, she was busy talking to someone, so Oreo decided to see what the boys wanted. She got up and galloped over to them. They laughed and giggled as she nuzzled them, looking for a treat. Look at the little boys. You see them? They're in kind of like old-fashioned clothes. I wonder who they are. Come on, Archie. Let's take her to see Algonquin. Oreo's ears perked up. Did you say Algonquin? Yeah, Quentin, let's take her up in the elevator. Wait, I don't know you. I really shouldn't go with you, Oreo said, backing up. My name is Archie, and this is Quentin, and you know us, or should I say you've heard of us. Your great-grandpa Algonquin lived with us. But aren't you, dead? The boys exchanged a look and giggled. The White House is a special place. You'll see, Quentin smiled. Okay, well, I guess since I know you, it's okay. She knew she shouldn't go, but she just had to see the White House. They led Oreo behind some bushes in front of the White House. There was a door going into the ground. When they opened it, there was a ramp going into a tunnel. Oreo looked back at her mom and saw that she was still talking. For a minute, Oreo hesitated, not knowing if she should go with these strange children. But she was so curious, so she decided to go anyway. Oreo was a bit scared going down the ramp, but the boys petted her and coaxed her on. Her hooves clipped-clopped and echoed down the hallway until they came to the elevator. Quentin pushed a button, and the elevator lurched, startling Oreo. But the boys spoke nicely to her, so she calmed down. The elevator stopped, and Archie led Oreo out. There was a walkway with big paintings of important men who seemed to gaze down at Oreo as she walked through the house, as if wondering what she was doing there. They came to an open door, and the boys led Oreo into a beautiful room with large windows. The light streamed through, blinding Oreo for a moment. When she was able to focus, she saw the little horse gazing out the window. It was like looking into a mirror. The little horse turned and gave a deep whinny into Oreo's direction. Hello there, great-grandbaby. Great-grandpa Algonquin, I thought you were, Oreo stammered again, wide-eyed. The White House is special. We have our ways, right, Archie and Quentin? The boys nodded in agreement. Call me Grandpa Al, it's shorter. You can see them meeting each other, see? And there's the hallway. They're going down the hallway of the tunnel going into the White House. I'm so glad to see you, Grandpa Al, Oreo sniffled. Me too, Oreo. I'm so proud of you, the way you're helping to tell the story of our ancestors and how they changed America. It's Leah, my mother, who tells the stories. I just look cute, Oreo said, giving him a toothy smile. Grandpa Al chuckled. Well, I want to tell you the story right from the horse's mouth. That way, when you meet other horses, you can spread the word. Come on, let's go explore. Boys, I'll call you when it's time for her to go home. Be good for a change. We will try, Al, but we can't make promises. Bye, Oreo, the two boys said in unison and scampered away. The two little horses made their way down the hall and back into the elevator to the first floor. The house was quiet and there was no one around. They walked into a very large room with two big pictures on the wall. Grandpa Al stopped in front of a picture of George Washington. Grandpa Al looked at the picture and then stamped on his hoof on the floor 3 times. Follow me, Grandpa said as he jumped headlong into the picture and disappeared. Oreo took a hoof and touched the picture, and it went right through. All of a sudden, she felt a yank, and she was pulled right into the picture. It was Grandpa who had pulled her Oreo into the picture, and they were in a stable. There were 6 white horses. A man was brushing one of the horses out. Grandpa whispered, "We are in New York, and that's George Washington's groom, and they're getting the horses ready for the first inauguration." The horses the groom's brush looked around and said, "Hello, Al. The horse who the groom brushed looked around and said, "Hello, Al. Who's your twin?" "Hello, Pegasus. This is my great-grandpa baby Oreo." Grandpa, Al, and Oreo walked forward toward Pegasus. "Well, hello there, cutie," Pegasus whinnied. Hello. Can't he hear us?" Oreo said, pointing his nose towards the groom. "Oh, no, horses are more in tune with things. He doesn't even see us," Oreo, Grandpa said. "But what about Archie and Quentin?" "They are children. They're different," Grandpa Al said matter-of-factly. Oreo was still confused, but took his word for it. "I am Pegasus, and these are my friends." The big horses shook their heads in his direction of the other horses. They were eating hay and looked up with full mouths, saying, "Hello." "We just had a bath," Pegasus explained. "I hate taking baths," Oreo said, making a face. "Oh, I don't mind, and it's important that we look good for all the people coming to see the inauguration of our first president. Why don't you guys stand over there and watch all the tricks the groom does to make us look beautiful, or should I say, more beautiful?" Pegasus said with a smirk, "What's an inauguration?" "Inauguration," Pegasus corrected, "is when a new president takes office and he swears to do the best he can for America." "Wow, that sounds important." "It is very important," Grandpa confirmed. The groom had a large stone bowl and a pestle grinder. He put some white pieces in the bowl and ground it up until it was a white powder. "What is he doing? Are you going to eat that?" Oreo asked. Pegasus chuckled. No, it's a special trick that George Washington's grooms would do. You know chalk, like you use on a blackboard? He's grinding it up to make a paste out of it. Watch what happens next." The groom added water to the white powder and brought it over to Pegasus. There was a roll of gauze bandage beside him as well. He mixed the powder and water into a paste with his hands and then spread the mixture all over Pegasus' neck and head and body. "Ew," Oreo said. "That doesn't look nice at all." "Give it time, Oreo. See what happens next," Grandpa Al said. The groom clapped his hands together to get the dust off and then picked up a roll of bandage. He started wrapping the bandage around Pegasus' nose and all the way around his head until he was covered from head to toe. Head to hoof, I should say. Oreo started to giggle and couldn't stop. "You look so funny, Pegasus, just like one of those Egyptian mummies." "Stop, Oreo," Pegasus laughed. "It's hard to laugh in this getup." Pegasus said, "Al, do your thing so I can get out of this mess." Grandpa stamped his foot 3 times, and the stable went dark and then light again. The sun was streaming through the door. The groom came in, stretching and yawning. "What happened, Grandpa?" "It's the next morning, Oreo, and Inauguration Day, April 13th, 1789. The groom patted Pegasus awake and started unwrapping the bandages. The white chalk fell off in clumps. "Oh, I'm tired," Pegasus said through the bandages. "It's hard to sleep with all this stuff on." "I'm sure," Oreo said. All the other horses had bandages wrapped around them, too, and the groomsmen's helpers started unwrapping them as well. Here's a picture of the horses being wrapped up. Can everybody see? See? Finally, all the bandages were off Pegasus, and the groom brushed out all the remaining chalk. Pegasus was bright white. "You look great," Oreo smiled. "Oh, you just wait and see when we're done, cutie," the big horse winked. The groom took water and washed Pegasus' nose and eyes and ears, then picked up some black shoe polish and brushed and buffed the horse's hooves until they were shiny black. He washed his hands in a clay bowl and then braided Pegasus' mane and tail. Finally, he took a beautiful harness with leather and silver and placed it on Pegasus. The other horses were ready too, and Oreo and Grandpa followed them outside, where there was a beautiful yellow carriage. Oh, wow, Oreo gasped. The groom hitched each of the horses to the carriage with Pegasus in front. I am the lead horse, Oreo, Pegasus beamed. So what do you think? I don't know what to say. I've never seen anything so beautiful. You look even better than the pictures I've seen of Cinderella's carriage. How do you know about Cinderella's carriage? Grandpa asked. Oh, they read at one of the libraries. They read it at one of the libraries we visited for the children. Well, Oreo, I'm off. It was great to meet you, Pegasus neighed. You too. Thank you, Pegasus. So that's a little bit of it, just a little taste of it. I hope you enjoyed it. And so I have a few questions. Let's see if I might need a copy of the questions. Whoever had the questions, thank you. All right, and I think I have my handy assistant has Oreo cookies for us. So first of all, if you can raise your hand when you're going to answer the question, what are the names of the two dogs? All right at the back.
Alice and Shadow.
Very good. We'll get you your cookies at the end. Is that good? Don't let me forget. All right, and what are the names of the two children? Let's see you. Very good, excellent. And who was their father? Does anyone know? Anybody know who's father? Theodore Roosevelt. Very good. And what was the name of the lead horse? Do we have anybody over here who knows the name of the lead horse? The little boy in the blue, turquoisey. Pegasus. Excellent. All right. And how many horses were in the carriage? Does anybody remember? What about you? You remember? Did you say 6? I hope so, since I just told you. Okay, and what color was the carriage? Does anybody remember? What color? No. Oh, I'm sorry, kids only. All right, you. All right, and what color was the horse? Anybody know? Anybody know? Right over there. Very good. And what were the names of this? Oh, I didn't read this part, but there were 2 horses. So we've got the end of our questions, but there were 2 horses that were the favorites of President George Washington, and those were Blueskin and Nelson were his 2 favorite horses. And what those colors of the horses, Blueskin was actually white, but he was so bluish white, that's how he got his name, and Nelson was brown. All right, so what we're going to do is first the prizes, and then it's Oreo time, okay? Well, before I finish up and we talk to Oreo, I just want to thank the Gaithersburg Book Festival. It is such a wonderful event. It's really wonderful to have an opportunity to have all kinds of books here. They're so good about just being open about all kinds of ideas for books, and they've done everything to help us and to help us with the event today. So I really can't thank you enough. Thank you. All right, so what we'll do is we'll have everybody come over. If we can kind of do it in a kind of a line so we don't have her overwhelmed, although she loves people, so we've had lots of people around her before. Well, thank you very much.